membrane injects Yeserina outer proteins. And outer proteins and inner proteins are a bit confusing and a bit in depth for people, so I'm not going to talk about those. But basically what it does is it limits phagocytosis. And phagocytosis is the eating of bacteria. A phagocytosis. And it also blocks cell signaling. So when a macrophage ingests the bacteria, it kind of signals to other macrophages and that, quick, come here, we need to get rid of this bacteria. Because rarely are you injected with just one single cell of bacteria. Yeah. You get a few. So they come in here and they go, waka, 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 waka.
And then it just goes...
Yeah. And generally that's what happens. And then the macrophages go back into the bloodstream, because macrophages can go in the cellular and the extracellular space of the human body.
God, the human body is a disgusting thing.
The human body is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
I've never related so much to that purple and yellow fish in Nemo, and it's like, the human body is a disgusting place. I get that.
Yeah.
I fucking get that.
It is. So, it does that. It limits all this having, which allows the bacteria to be able to spread through into the lymph system and spread the bacterium. And when the bacterium then spreads, it causes an imbalance of other bacteria and it leads to the infection. So the first place that the bacteria basically goes is to what we call end organ areas. And all bacteria is digested by macrophages and things like that, which then go to the spleen, and the spleen then filters into the lymph system, and all this. It's a complicated process. So again, osmosis strains hopefully has helped some people.
If they did their homework.
If not, go watch some human anatomy videos. But basically it spreads to those, and it causes the inflammation of the lymph nodes and things like that, because the bacteria is spreading in that. Your lymph flows everywhere in your body.
Oh, gosh.
Lymph is everywhere, but you've got specific nodes and specific drainage systems and things like that. So your most common lymph nodes that you can feel on your body easily are the ones behind your ears. So when you get like a throat infection, sometimes you feel those swell. In your armpits, you can feel those ones, and on your inner groin. They're your major ones that you can generally, most people can feel when they're unwell.
So they like swell up?
Yeah. Well, a lot of women, anecdotally, scientific evidence doesn't correlate with, but a lot of anecdotal evidence with people is, like, people who menstruate will find that their groinal lymph nodes are swollen and sore.
Oh.
As I don't menstruate, I don't know, but I've been told by a lot of people who menstruate that.
I'm so glad that I don't do that.
Yeah. Menstruating is perfectly natural, but it sounds like a horrible experience at times. And I've seen horrible experiences, and I've seen the clumpies and things like that.
Next!
What, you don't want to know about the clumpies?
Tell me more about this
about the
Pac-Man plague.
So once the bacteria spread...
2 more shots, people.
As the bacteria spreads, you get your signs and symptoms of, like, the illness. So your general one that you would know of, that most people know of, is the swollen lymph nodes that go purple. That's bubonic, essentially, because those swollen lymph nodes are called buboes.
Boobies?
Buboes.
Buboes?
Buboes.
Buboes? That's a cute name.
Yes, buboes.
When I get my rats, I'm going to call one of them Bubo.
Okay. So you get that. So you get the swollen lymph nodes.
Yeah.
You get malaise, which is the general, I feel like shit sensation, to put it easy. Pyrexia, which is a temperature.
Yep.
So you get a fever, you get headaches, and then you get, like, sore lymph nodes. Those same lymph nodes get sore.
Ooh.
Now, specifically with the bubonic one, these lymph nodes swell to the point of that they cause hemorrhagic skin changes, which then, so blood, because there's so much pressure, blood is spilt into the cellular, from the intravascular space to the extravascular space of the body.
Yeah.
So it goes into the dermal layer and that more, and it necroses and it turns purple and causes, like, it necrotizes and basically just dies.
Oh.
So the skin rots, essentially. And this also happens at the endpoints, but that's more because it causes septicemia. Sepsis, I'm just going to call it sepsis because septicemia is the old term for blood poisoning.
Yeah.
So sepsis is a systemic infection, essentially. So it's basically your whole body has an infection everywhere. And sepsis is a life-threatening situation. And one of the big things with it is it causes hypovolemia, which is low blood pressure from lack of intravascular fluid. So this then causes your body goes into septic shock. That's what it's called.
Yep.
And in this, the body is smart. It takes blood away from non-essential areas and puts it to the vital organs. So your lungs, your heart, your kidneys, and your brain. They're your 4 major organ systems.
Yeah.
Okay? So your body will try and preserve those over everything else.
Okay, well that
most importantly.
makes sense.
But they're your last 4. They're your end organs. We call them, like, endpoint organs.
Yeah, so if they're compromised, then you're fucked.
Yeah, but so your body will start shutting down peripheral things. So, like, you don't need blood to the tips of your ears, the tips of your nose, tips of your fingers and toes. It'll stop the blood flow there, and that's what leads to the gangrenous hemorrhagic skin changes and necrotizing things. And I'll put photos up of a person who has bubonic plague, like, from the 30s.
Yep.
And it will show you those skin changes, like how the skin's gone black and that around the tips and that, because there's no blood there, because your body's going, no, I need to keep these organs alive first. The body's pretty smart. The body always wants to stay in a state of what is called homeostasis, where it's always in balance. Your body is never perfectly in balance, but it's always trying to stay functional.
Yeah.
Because you can function without hands. You can function without the tips of your ears or the tip of your nose. Things like that. They're not essential for life.
Makes sense.
So that's why sepsis is such an important thing for medical professionals to get on top of straight away.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
They're your general things. Now, with pneumonic plague, you get, like, a lung infection, you get cough, and you get fluid and empyema, which is pus in your lungs.
Oh.
And you cough up stuff, and then that causes the spread of the disease rather than the rats. Yeah, it's excreted through your body via coughing and phlegm.
Yeah.
That's why you should never swallow your phlegm. Should always expel it and dispose of it properly. And always cough into the inner part of your arm, or into your shoulder, or to the inside of your shirt. But you should always cover when you cough and sneeze. Everyone should know that from this year.
Yeah, if you haven't learned that now, please get on a ship and leave the planet. You are the problem.
Basically, drink the Kool-Aid. That's the basis of plague. Shot, shot, shot. Because I'm going to mention it a lot now.
Dun, 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 dun.
So if you're not drunk
round.
yet, you're going to get very drunk.
Time for the speed round.
So there's been 3 major pandemics, and 1 major epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
So remember the definitions from before?
So pandemic is worldwide.
Yep.
And epidemic is situated.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Woo!
Yay!
Learning.
You've passed Epidemiology 101.
Cool.
So there's been 3. So we have historically in 541 to 546 BC, we had the Justinian plague.
Yeah.
In 1347, there was the Black Death, which I think most people have heard of that one.
And, like, wiped out, like, what, 60-something percent
approximately
of the
75% of Europe.
Oof.
And then 1894, there was a pandemic as well, and we haven't given it a special name. It was just the plague pandemic. And then you had the great epidemic of London that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So we'll go in order of how they've occurred, okay? So we'll start off with, but the one in London was, I believe it was pneumonic plague. Yes, pneumonic plague. Okay? It wasn't bubonic.
Okay. So it was...
So we're going to focus initially on the 3 bubonic plagues. And then I will talk about the pneumonic plague.
Okay.
So people should have been pretty drunk there now.
Yeah.
So the Justinian plague happened in 541 to 546 BC. It started in Central Africa, spread to Egypt and the Mediterranean from there. And we know this occurs from archaeological records, and because it was also recorded by the Byzantine court historian Procopius of Caesarea's History of the Worlds. Okay, so it's recorded in that. So the Byzantine Empire existed in 395 CE to 1453. Okay?
Yep.
And it was mostly an empire that ruled the Mediterranean, North Africa, Middle East, and Turkey. And it was basically a majorly Christian-based society.
Yeah.
Okay? So the court historian Procopius of Caesarea wrote about how people developed these bubonic swellings, bubon meaning groin initially.
Ooh.
Okay? Fevers and blackened areas. So he talks about these, like people get these, they'll go delirious with their fever and be not making sense and possessed by demons and things like that. And we saw the major epicenter of this was Constantinople. Constantinople was Istanbul. Istanbul was Constantinople. Do 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 do. It's a song. You're looking at me very strange right now. I'll play you the song.
Wait. No, never mind.
I'll play you the song. So now you've heard the song.
That is a vibe. That is a bop.
It's a very famous, big band song.
Yeah, it's a super boppy.
It'll get stuck in your head. Because New York was once New Amsterdam.
Yeah.
It gets very stuck in your head.
Definitely go and check it out.
Istanbul, not Constantinople, is the name of the song.
Do it.
There's lots of covers of it too.
Do it now.
But it gets stuck in your head because she'll be waiting in Istanbul if you don't.
Yeah.
So basically, its epicenter was Constantinople, which is now Istanbul. Okay, and he wrote that they were seeing about 10,000 deaths a day.
Whew.
Now, when you put that into perspective, we've seen in the US there was about 250,000 deaths from COVID-19.
Yeah.
Then in Australia, we've had nearly 3,000, mostly all in Victoria. So that was over the year.
Yeah.
So now you look at that in the sense of this was 10,000 people dying a day.
Jeez.
That's a lot of people.
Oy vey.
And unfortunately, Constantinople was the center of the trade routes. It was where all the trading was happening and all the markets and things like that.
I see where this is going.
So it spread from there. They did it,
trauma.
but they didn't know that it was from rats or fleas. They just knew that it was spreading.
Fuck.
And it led to a major disruption in hygiene, burials, and industry. Because if you think about it, 10,000 people are dying a day.
That's a lot of bodies to get rid of.
But people are dying, catching the infection off the bodies.
Oh, damn.
So you see how it...
Oh, damn. I see. I get it.
Yeah, so it was pretty hard to do. And it continued in waves on and off for a long time during this period. Up until the Black Death. So it kept going until the Black Death in waves.
Oh, dear.
But the major period was 541 to 546 AD or CE, however you want to look at it. And so then we hit 1347. The Black Death.
The Black Death.
The plague that you hear people talk about. The plague.
Finish them.
And the one that most books and movies are based on. Because there's a lot of movies about the plague and disease carrying and things like that. So this one started in Asia.
Oh.
Mainly. From those same trade routes.
Oh dear.
And then it led into Crimea.
Yep.
And then Crimea to Europe and Russia. So Crimea is basically, you're looking at Pan-Arabia, and Southeast Asia is considered Crimea, essentially. Yep. It's a lot more complicated than that, but by the look on your face, I'm going to give it to you simply. So, again, it's spread along the Silk trade routes this time.
Yep, okay. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. But the major incident that caused it was the Tatar army besieged a town in Ukraine that was on the edge of the Black Sea, that was on the trading routes.
Uh-huh.
Now, the Tatar army lost their fight.
Yeah.
Okay? So what they did was, they catapulted dead bodies over the walls of the city into there to infect them.
Whoa. Yo. That's metal as fuck.
Yeah, they put the dead bodies in catapults and flung them over the walls.
Jesus. Imagine that, it's raining men.
Hallelujah.
Is that what that song is from?
No, but it could be now.
Look, there's two different songs that come from this perspective. There's It's Raining Men, and then there's Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. I apologize, that's insensitive of me. Let's go back to flinging dead bodies over.
Imagine being in the city and having dead bodies flung over the wall at you. Just think about it. It's raining men!
Yeah, that's insensitive of me. But please, let's go back to the catapulting dead bodies over castle walls.
No, but just imagine being the people.
It would,
now, think about a dead body that's flung over at speed, hitting a wall and things like that.
Plus, is it already kind of festery because of the plague and full of gross fluids? Yuck! It's extreme paintballing.
Now, those fluids, rats eat meat.
Yuck!
So it attracts rats to eat that, and birds and dogs and cats and that.
Oh my God,
so then it gets into them. The fleas on the animals.
Yeah.
Then suck it back up and do all that. You see how it works?
Just extreme paintballing. They took it too far.
Extreme paintball. Sorry, I'm just picturing the episode of The Simpsons when Homer and they're doing Prohibition and Rex Banner walks onto the catapult.
Oh, yes.
And they fling him. I'm just picturing that. Or the episode where The Simpsons reference this of flinging bodies over walls when Lisa in I can't even think what the episode is called, and that's really bad for me.
Oh.
So Marge is telling the stories of different historical figures, and she's talking about Joan Van Arc.
Yep.
Well, they're fleeing Frenchmen over into the walls of the city.
Uh-huh.
So they're doing that as well. So, because this is happening, the Genoese traders got in their boats and went, fuck this shit, we're out.
Makes sense. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Y'all need therapy.
But they'd had already been infected.
Oh no!
So they spread it to Constantinople and Messina, which is the north of Italy.
Good job.
Which caused the beginning of the Black Death spread. From there, it spread to France, Germany, Spain, England, Norway, most of Eastern and Central Europe, and Russia, and India by 1349.
I hope all of you realize how important it is that we have had our borders closed all this time.
Yep.
This is exactly why.
Exactly, we've learned from history.
Did we learn? Look how long it took them to sort it out.
I know, but we knew that it would work, just people are idiots. Like the people in Victoria complaining about not being able to leave their houses. I'm sorry, I know it was hard. I do feel sorry for people, but rioting...
You know what you did.
Because of we can't leave our houses.
You know what you did.
You know what you did wrong. Because Do you want to be like the people and have dead bodies flung over your city wall? No.
That's so bad. I should not laugh.
Oh, they did. There was lots of weird things that the Tartar army did.
Tartar sauce.
No, they did not make tartar sauce.
They made tartar sauce and they were run by tartar sauce, that grumpy cat. He was their leader. It's like, General, what do we do? And tartar sauce just sits there and meows, and they're like, okay, we'll fling bodies over the wall.
Oh, that made me think of Yum Yan and avocado.
Oh, too many dead cats in cartoons.
2020. How dare you? So, most of this has also been described in the works of Giovanni Boccio's book, The Cameron. And he describes egg and apple-sized, pus-filled buboes on people which spread in all directions on their body.
Okay, look. As disgusting as that is, I would not be mad to just attain one of those, or a person with those on them to pop them, as long as I don't get infected with it, because that'd be gross. But, like, imagine popping an egg-sized pimple. Oh,
so much fun.
Look at that.
Look, I've lanced boils and things like that in my work.
Oof.
It's part of my favourite part. My favourite part of my work is wound care.
Yeah.
That is my specialty, is wound care.
That's so gross.
So, if it drips and oozes, I need to know about it.
No.
It interests me.
You heard it here first. Inbox Connie with all your gross oozing.
I will not give you any medical advice. I'll just say, oh, that looks awesome. That's all you will get. So, it was described, and it killed 75. So, we can't put a definitive number on how many it killed, because there were so many mass graves, and they were burning dead bodies and things like that.
Is that what they should have been doing?
Yes and no.
Would, like, I don't know.
You got to consider the times. They don't fully understand why it was happening and how it was spreading. So, burning dead bodies and burying them in big pits is actually a reasonable conclusion.
Would have been a better way of doing it?
Killing all the rats.
Okay.
That would have been the better way of doing it. But it killed around 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia and Asia and North Africa between 1947 and 1347 and 1351.
Shit.
And at the time they called it the pestilence, the plague, and the Black Death.
Ooh.
Yeah. And as I was saying, they didn't really understand how it was spreading, and there was lots of different ideas. They thought it sometimes it was miasma, which is like gases and air and things like that.
Yeah.
God punishing humankind for not reigning in their sinful ways.
Damn right.
Curses.
Mm-hmm.
There was also some planets aligned during that time, so they thought it was an astrological phenomena.
Oh, shit.
And then some people just went, this is a natural thing that's happening and we're fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And the plague had such impact on society. Like now. You're going to draw a lot of parallels with now. Large population death. Okay? Families were wiped out. There's lack of clergy and proper burials. That's happening in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
We can't say how many people COVID-19 has actually killed because not every country has accurate documentation. There's also a lot of epidemiological articles that suggest that there's been a lot more deaths in America than that have been recorded, because these are recorded deaths during this time of people who caught it, were tested with it. A lot of people in America can't get access to free healthcare.
Yeah.
And things like that. So it could and the homeless and that aren't counted in these things. So it could be a lot worse. Yeah. And it could be the same in Australia. We don't know how many homeless people actually... I haven't heard of them like saying how many people who died from it have been homeless and that. I haven't got any statistics to back that up yet. I might eventually, because I do get access to all that kind of information, but I just don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Okay? It led to a lot of quackery. And quackery is, here, drink this milk of magnesia to cure you of everything and things like that. So like now, Donald Trump, inject yourself with disinfectant. That kind of thing. That's
Listen
quackery.
up, Donny boy. Why don't you inject yourself with disinfectant? Lead by example.
Yeah. Well, he got COVID-19.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I still reckon it was a political stunt, but hey. That is my opinion. Whether it's accurate or not, I do not know.
Let's not get into Trumpy.
No.
Let's talk about the other thing that shook the globe. The plague.
Yeah, so it led to a lot of quackery things.
Yep.
Traveling and trading became restricted or non-existent this year.
Pivot.
Livelihoods were diminished, like a lot of trades and things like that happened this year. But it interesting led to, you know how there's a lower, middle, and upper class?
Yeah.
It led to the middle class development of that.
Ooh.
Because it was, people would exploit the rich, working as labourers for them at an extra high cost, so they improved their living, but they weren't aristocracy. But it also, positively again, it also led to beautiful, beautiful art and things like that, which is lovely to see. And there were also people walking around wearing masks with like flowers and that to help dilute the miasma. People think it was to hide, like, mask the smell of the dead, decaying bodies. No, they were putting the stuff in there because they thought it was from the miasma, so it was filtering out the bad toxins for them. But the plague doctor outfit didn't really come into play until the pneumonic plague in London. Okay? So that's basically the Black Plague. So it was hefty. It started with basically dead bodies being thrown around and ended with dead bodies being thrown around in pits and burnt.
Why do they throw dead bodies? Why is everyone throwing or slinging dead bodies?
I don't know, something you would do.
I know, but that's me. I didn't think other people in history were so demented. I thought I was the
You didn't
only
think
one.
people in history were that demented?
This is true. This is a good point.
People were roasted in cast bronze freaking bulls over fire.
Don't look at me like that. Yes,
People were gilded alive
people
with gold.
are demented, I get it.
There's a lot of torturous things in history.
Yeah.
A lot. You think this is just a modern thing?
Humanity. It has taken so long. Please try and get your shit together.
Humanity will never get its shit together.
No, it won't.
We can just try and make it better. A little
Hopefully
bit.
a comet hits the planet and ends humanity.
Oh, so you want to go to Taylor?
Yeah.
If you don't know what Taylor is, listen to our podcast about Heaven's Gate.
Dun, 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 dun.
Turn the page.
Ding.
How many shots have you taken so far?
Yeah, or have you lost count?
Or are you dead from
Are you
alcohol
still
poisoning?
listening? Dun, dun, dun.
So, then we had the pandemic of 1894, which we haven't given a name to. Again, this started in China, spread to Hong Kong, India, and the world via trade routes, and because at this point humanity was moving around a lot more faster and things like that. So, again, it mainly spread along the tin and opium routes. So, the stoners. Because opium was abused a lot. So, it reached ports on every continent except Antarctica. Every continent except Antarctica.
See, the penguins knew what they were doing.
So, it reached here in Australia.
Really?
Yep. There was, I think, it came to Australia in 1900, and there were 12 outbreaks between 1900 and 1925, and resulted in like only 500 odd deaths. So it was here in Australia.
Huh.
But I digress. So again, it caused like issues with trade, restricted borders, and things like that. But the mortality rate wasn't as high because society's hygiene had improved dramatically. Like there weren't dead bodies being flung over walls and things like that this time.
Wash your hands.
Basically. Because the Boer War, during that, is when Florence Nightingale found that if doctors washed their hands, it reduced the spread of disease, so people were actually cleaning themselves more frequently and things like that. So because of Florence Nightingale is why we wash our hands so much.
Thank you, Florence.
Yes. So that was just interesting, just an interesting side fact. But so basically during this time, Paul Louis Simon, and Alexandre Yersin discovered the causative bacteria that caused it. So they found the Yersinia pestis that caused the bubonic plague. Yes, so they had the swollen, explosive lymph nodes.
I kind of envision like these tumory, lumpy things like close together on the body in clusters, and humans just looking like corn cobs.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So they were like big festery things under people's arms and things like that, and they would pop occasionally and then get reinfected and
it's
so
like
on and so
human
forth.
Bubble wrap.
Human bubble wrap. Pop, 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 pop.
Not gonna lie, it would be one of the best things I could ever have.
I mean,
if I could go back in time and with the assurance of not getting infected, just to sit there and be a official bubonic popper, I would do it.
Yeah. Well, Alexandre, sorry, because it was a man, because the 1800s, it was a man who found the bacteria.
Oh.
So because they found a bacteria, they started looking for like what antibiotics, because he worked at the Pasteur Institute. So Louis Pasteur, who found that like with smallpox, milkmaids who had cowpox didn't get smallpox, and he found vaccine and antibiotics and things like that. So penicillin and things like that. So they were trying different treatments, and so it was getting treated. But it wasn't until Paul Louis Simon linked it in 1898 to the rats, that the rats caused it. So then they knew that we had to exterminate rats.
But they're so cute.
But it wasn't the rats that were spreading it.
It was the fleas.
It was the fleas, so it was still spreading. So then they linked it to the fleas were spreading it. So then they exterminated fleas across most continents and tried to reduce the number of it. And that's why people panic so much about fleas. But it's not until fleas get into an infestation that it becomes a problem. As I said, you have fleas or lice right now. Your dogs have fleas. There's always a small amount of fleas everywhere.
See, and so this is the same go with like malaria, yeah, with mosquitoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Except malaria is a protozoa, not a bacteria or a virus.
But spread by bugs.
Yes, it's spread by zoonotic infection.
Disgusting.
So
they know what they did.
There's a lot of diseases that are spread zoonotically. And then there's a lot of things that are transferred via vectors, like with COVID-19, we know that it can live on non-porous surfaces for up to 13 hours and things like that. So that's why cleaning things down and washing your hands is so important. Wash your hands.
If they've lived through this year and they're still not washing their frickin' hands, stop listening. I want nothing to do with you.
There are people that still that. Have you not seen the videos of people saying that this is just a giant conspiracy theory and all that?
I know, but y'all, all our listeners, I want you to wash your hands.
Yep. But the thing is, it caused 15 million deaths globally by 1959. So not that long ago.
Shit. That was real close.
Yep. So not that long ago. That was a pandemic for it. Then you have the Great Plague of London. So the Great London Plague happened in 1665 to 1666. So it was just 1 year, essentially. So it was pretty interesting because in this time, they lost 15% of their population of London, like 15% of the population, which isn't that much. That's the one that people know about, as well as the Black Death. So they reckon that there was about 68,000 odd deaths during this time period. But we think now that there's probably more than 100,000 easily.
Huh.
But it all depends on what's happening. So the earliest recording of a case happening in England of it in this time period happened in St. Giles in the Fields.
Yeah.
Where it started to spread from there in the hot summer and peaked in the September of that year. And it famously killed 7,000 Londoners in 1 week. So basically,
So there's 1,000 people a day.
yeah.
Shit.
So then what happened after that was in this time, that's when we get the plague doctor masks. So they thought it was the miasma. And they were pretty close because this was pneumonic. So it was spread through the lungs.
Okay, so talk to me about the plague doctor mask. We all know what it is, and if you don't, I'm sure Connie will put up a picture on the Instagram of one.
It's my aesthetic as hell.
It is. It's Connie's aesthetic as hell. So is that... What's the story there? Is the nose filled with that stuff to stop it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But they were all different shapes and sizes. Like, they were all just handcrafted.
Yeah.
So they were filled with different flowers and that to try and stop the miasma from getting through. So the doctors would wear big hats. I'm not quite sure why they were the big hats. That, I think, was just an aesthetic choice. But there were the masks, and they wore gloves.
Yeah.
So that they wouldn't get contaminated because they were going near so many bodies, same as the trench coats, because they would go to houses. They would also paint red crosses on people's doors to mark that that house had been infected with the plague. And they would try different ways of relieving the pressure, such as putting leeches on buboes and things like that. But leeches are still used medically.
Yeah,
they're fantastic.
Like, I'm just envisioning this
the pain.
Leech. Oh, fuck the pain. I'm just envisioning this leech sucking all this pus.
Well, it wasn't sucking pus. They only suck blood.
Yeah, but like...
So it's taking all the blood out of the inflammation to reduce the inflammation of...
So, and the pus bubble is left behind.
Yeah.
And then you pop it like human bubble wrap.
Custard.
Custard.
No, so they would do things like that, or they would try different potions and remedies and some quackery. Again, there were people selling talismans to prevent it. Cities had, like, passports to travel. So, like, you had journeymen who would travel and they'd have passports that they've come from different cities, say that they weren't infected with the plague and that.
Yes.
You look like you just remembered something.
No, I think I was, like, having a stroke.
Yay!
No,
Is it going to even out your face?
That was painful. You shady cunt.
You can't say that word.
Shady whore.
That's better. Yeah, so that's what led to that, and that's when we get the nursery rhyme. Ring around a rosy, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all fall down. So, a ring around of rosies was because the lymph nodes would get infected, so they were red and inflamed. So, ring of rosies. A pocket full of posies, because the posies was used, like all the flowers, were used to try and protect from the miasma that was causing the disease. A tissue, you were sick.
Yeah.
We all fall down, you died.
Yeah, spoiler alert, they all died in the end.
Not all. Only 15% of people died.
Most of them.
So...
The Plague, written by George R.R. Martin. 2020, also written by George R.R. Martin.
George R.R. Martin, assassinated by Drag to Hell listeners. No one go kill George R.R. Martin. So, essentially, that is the plagues.
Ew.
But the plague is still around. Don't get me wrong.
Please.
But it's now easily treated with antibiotics. It's found globally on all continents except Oceania and Antarctica.
Okay.
So Australia is Oceania. We don't, just to rest assured, we don't get it. It's not here anymore.
God. Because if I get a giant zit or something, and I'm like, I've got
I'm looking at your arm.
I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die of boobies.
Well, it's mainly endemic to the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Madagascar have the most cases.
Oh no, Alex the Lion.
I know that's a Madagascar reference.
Yeah.
I watched the second movie only the other week.
Oh, there you go.
But it's still found, and this is all according to the World Health Organization. But the Democratic Republic of the Congo still has cases of it quite regularly. And no, it is not Ebola. That is a totally different thing.
That is a different thing.
But it still has it. In 2017, though, there were over 300 cases in Madagascar.
Ooh.
But more closer to home, July this year, there was a case in Mongolia. But it was easily treated. And on average, there's about 7 cases in the US a year.
Yeah.
So it's still around. But in those cases, it's usually people who live, really rural. I think it names Missouri as one of the states, from what I read. So it still happens, but it's not a common thing. But it's easily treated because we know it's bacteria, and we can treat bacteria with antibiotics, which is why we can't treat COVID, because COVID is a virus, and viruses don't respond to antibacterium.
Because they adapt.
No, because a virus is a virus. A bacteria is a bacteria. Antibiotics don't work on a virus. But a virus can lead to a bacterial infection because bacteria are opportunistic. So bacteria are sneaky little things. They like to sit there. Oh, look, we can spread.
They do aerobics all through your body.
Yep. Your body's covered in thousands of little microbes. You're a crawling thing.
Yeah! I hate it so much.
Well, tattoos. The ink stays because the macrophages have gone to that spot, eaten the ink, and died.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So tattoos are signs of your body's inflammatory response working.
Yeah. I'm glad that it works. That's good.
But yes,
I'm gonna get a tattoo every year to make sure that everything's still in check and it works.
But that is the plague. Wow. So 2020 started with a plague, and we're ending it with a plague discussion.
Dun dun dun.
And I'll put up pictures and things like that on Instagram.
Low key, I kind of really want to know if people actually took on my task of taking a shot every time you said plague.
Yeah, I want to see some drunk videos.
Yeah. But if you got alcohol poisoning, that's not our fault. You're an adult and can make your own decisions.
We did not pressure you into this, and all opinions expressed in this are our own. Do not take medical advice unless it's given to you by a registered practitioner.
Yeah. Also, after the start of this episode, I kind of want to see some fan art of Connie as Miss Fizzle from the Magic School Bus. Because, you're talking about the insides of the body and blah, blah, blah. And that's all that was going through my head. I'm just like, this bitch is Miss Fizzle. I'm so glad she hasn't got a magic school bus to take me inside someone's body to show me the boobies.
I don't need to take you inside somebody's body.
I don't want to.
I'll take you to the body farms.
I don't want to go to body farms.
I'll take you... I wish I could take you to the Museum of Human Disease in Sydney. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Love it. You can see a fluffy cirrhosis liver and things like that.
Yeah, you're great.
It's fascinating. I have DVDs of human anatomy stuff and that.
All I need to know is that my flesh suit works, and I'm happy with that.
Does it work?
Sometimes.
I mean, it hasn't worked fully since birth for you.
You shady creature.
Why? I was born with a cleft palate. I can say it too.
That's fine. We're both creatures with deformities.
Just one deformity?
I said deformities. Plural.
We have lots of issues. Lots and lots of issues.
Yes, that's a fact. Is that all we have time for today?
I think it is.
Well, in case you missed it, you've been listening to Drag to Hell.
You can find us on all social media platforms under Drag to hell.
And,
Nice and simple.
yeah, it's as easy as that. Just type us in,
Like and share.
listen to us, babble on about random crap. If you want to hear us talk about something, inbox us. We are happy to take suggestions.
Until next time, children,
Always remember,
drink the Kool-Aid.